Welcome back to Mamba for week 2 of talking about riding in winter, riding at Mamba, that sort of thing. And this just in, Mamba is open. So get out and ride. It's beautiful out here. Trails are perfect. Come on out here. So one more quick note is just like all of our outdoor recreation programs, we want to thank Subaru of America. They have supported us for many years, and we really appreciate their generosity in helping us out, and we want to thank them for their continued support. Today we're going to be talking about riding in the winter and what gear works. So Jordan and I are here today. We're going to share some tips and tricks, share a lot of our equipment that we have that we like to use. There's a whole variety of things, and some of it is probably a little expensive, but some of it also might surprise you. So some of this gear is just kind of run-of-the-mill stuff you can find anywhere, and some of it is cycling specific. We're going to talk about not just kind of road cycling or fitness cycling, but kind of all types of cycling, commuting, just riding around for fun, casual riding, mountain biking, all of those things. So I've selected a handful of my personal favorite items that I like to use. Jordan has done the same. So we're going to go through and share with you the stuff that we have. My hands are cold, so I'm going to come back in my pockets. I should use my gloves, but I don't want to forget to talk about them, so I'm going to keep them up here. So we're going to start off, kind of work our way in to out. So in outdoor recreation world, we like to say things like, in the winter, you want to dress in layers. You want to dress like an onion. Jordan, is there any other ones that you like to use?
I like the onion one.
Dress like an onion.
Yep.
So layer up. So we're going to start off with inner layers first. So Jordan, why don't you share with us some of your favorite base layers?
All right, so when I'm getting ready to go out in the wintertime, I like wearing a good base layer that's going to wick away the moisture away from my body, so not like a cotton t-shirt or anything like that. So preferably sometimes I'll even get away with a nice, like, really slick layout lays underneath of this right here, so it just right up against my core, really nice and tight, and then keeps the moisture and wicks it away from my body, so it just immediately gets that sweat away. So this is a nice base layer to have underneath, something like a polypropylene or a wool. And they do make some that are cycling specific that have tons of different like patterns and things like that that are heavier in certain areas and really wick in other areas. So it's very interesting. There's tons of different things out there, but this is a nice lightweight one I got several years ago, and I just love it and been wearing it ever since. Then once I get that on, normally I'm going to wear something over top of it in terms of maybe if it's not as cold out, I'm going to be wearing just a regular jersey. So this is just a regular jersey. You can see it's pretty lightweight. If I hold it up to the sun, I can see through both layers even. So it's really lightweight, and it might not actually be that great for wintertime. So I might even up it just a little bit by going to more of a t-shirt or something like that that's going to be wicking as well, having that underneath, or even a heavier jersey. They make heavier weight jerseys, so something like that is going to be something I'm going to wear underneath in terms of the top. But then down below, I still like to wear a chamois even in the wintertime, regardless of how many layers I got on. So having that underneath, instead of like a really thick pair of shorts or anything like that too, getting more of a lighter weight, a liner style that is going to clip on the inside if need be, or just really lightweight and not going to be a whole lot of stuff, but again, it's going to be able to breathe and sweat and wick that moisture away from everything on the inside as I'm out riding and getting a little hot out there.
Yeah, so Jordan said a few things there. I think one of the keys is wicking layers. So, we want to stay away from cotton. If that's all you got, that works. Layering up can do that, but and still stay warm. But the wicking layers actually pull moisture away from your skin, and that moisture being close to your skin is what is going to make you stay cold or get cold once you start to build up a sweat. I use a lot of the same type of layers as Jordan does for a base layer. I also use some of my just basic technical long underwear. It's tight fitting, it fits under a lot of my cycling clothes, and it works just the same for if you're out trail running or hiking or biking. I too have one of the liners with the chamois built in. So what's really cool about these, Jordan has some, I have a little bit different ones here. I use these year round. So I wear these underneath regular shorts in the summer for mountain biking. If I'm going on a kind of a casual ride, but a longer ride, I might throw these on underneath a pair of jeans. They can work for all different sorts of scenarios. And they're perfect for winter layer because you can put these on first and then put all your layers over top of it, and you still have the benefit of that chamois. Let's see, another one of my kind of, we're going to transition a little bit from base layer to mid layer. One of my favorites, these are a couple of different wool shirts that I've got. This is a quarter zip, so it's got a little bit higher neck, and I like this quarter zip because it really helps me regulate my temperature. So this is a wool blend. I really love merino wool stuff in the winter. It really, it has a lot of benefits. The one mostly is that it doesn't smell when you sweat it in a lot. That's probably my favorite benefit of wool. This one here is similar. These are just standard outdoor kind of all around recreation type equipment, but they're a little bit snugger fitting, so they fit nicely underneath cycling equipment. A couple other kind of base layer / mid layer considerations. For hands, my hands get cold. They're freezing right now. And there's actually something called a glove liner that you can get. So these are a merino wool glove liner. They're really thin, but it just adds one more layer. I can put these on, and then I can put a thicker glove over top of them. So that's a good base layer to have there. Your head, the first thing you put on your head, most time you go out cycling, is going to be your helmet. But to keep your head warm, depending on the temperature when you're out, maybe just putting on just a simple cycling hat. This one I got from Bike Money Valley, our local bike advocacy group. Sometimes this is enough to put this on underneath my helmet just to keep my head warm. More often than not, my ears start to get cold as well, and that's where a headband can make a big difference. So much heat escapes from your head, but your ears, when you're out, you're riding, either riding to work or you're out riding at Mamba, mountain biking, or road riding. For me, my ears get really cold. It's like a headband. I've got a couple different ones. This one is similar to what Jordan was showing. I mean, you can see through it. It's so thin, but it's enough sometimes just to keep the wind off of my ears. And then I have a windproof one. This windproof one is phenomenal. Sometimes I will layer a headband with a regular cycling cap under my helmet, and that keeps my head perfect, all the way down to maybe like 25 degrees. I don't need anything else because so much heat is exiting through my head. Let's see here. Another really cold weather base layer that you might use for your head is a balaclava. And this one here is super thin, just like Jordan showed before, but just having this extra layer, oftentimes I'll put this on with the headband on over top for getting that down into pretty cold temperatures. What's nice about this is it also has the part that covers your mouth. So you're generally, when you're out riding, even if you're just going on a casual ride, you're starting to build up some heat and breathe a little bit harder. So this you can put on your mouth, and that moisture gets on that thing, but it dries really fast. So that's one of my favorite pieces. Let's see, other base layer type things, moving to the mid layers. One of the things that I like to do, kind of the final piece, my feet get really cold. And, typical cycling socks are pretty thin, and you can get warmer wool ones, but I like to wear really thick wool socks in the winter. And these are about as thick as I have, some super thick wool socks, but these are so thick that they're kind of like boot socks. So these don't generally fit in most cycling shoes. I have a pair of cycling shoes that I bought with that in mind, so they're a little bit bigger, so I have a little bit more room. If you try to squeeze some really thick socks into your typical cycling shoes, it's gonna constrict that blood flow. It's gonna make your feet stay cold and not be able to warm up. So you want to have a little bit more loose fitting things. So thick wool socks, a little tip is, if you have multiple pairs of cycling shoes, maybe have a pair that's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I went riding with a buddy, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I got 3 pairs of socks on." But he had them craned in there so tight, he constricted all that flow, and his feet were freezing. I had 1 pair of wool on, and I was fine.
Yeah, it's that's something to keep in mind. Let's see. Let's go back to Jordan. Jordan, you want to talk about some mid layers?
Sure, and I got a lot of the same layers as Randy talked about. For my head, I like wearing that just earband as well, over top of a little beanie or a cycling cap. Those work really great together. If it is slightly colder, and I think I'm probably not going to be taking it off or anything, I might step it up to just like one of these, just the one that's going to fit right there and be pretty wicking and stay on there and just be good underneath. So this is another layer just to have with you. Then in terms of mid-weight layers, when I'm going out, I may or may not, depending on temperature, throw in a pair of long johns over top of this right here. So I mean, if I know that it's going to be really cold and my legs are going to be freezing as they're out there just pedaling along, I might throw a lightweight pair of wicking long johns on that are going to be over top just to add a little bit more insulation on my lower half down there. So then for the upper layer, once I got that base layer on, depending on what it is, I'll put a lot of times just another long sleeve, similar to what Randy was talking about, wicks the moisture away, has some of that wool or capilline fibers. So those are great ones, but really, if you don't spend the money on that, a lot of tech shirts and everything come in long sleeve these days, even from like a race like a turkey trot or something like that, and this is a great just insulating layer to have underneath that's going to wick that moisture away as well. And you can buy all kinds of different styles of those. But that's about where I go for that range for my mid-weight layers as I'm going out. And then depending on if I'm going to be having a heavy shell on and a whole bunch of other stuff, I might even throw a vest in the middle between those things too, just to give me one additional layer on my upper torso area that's going to have a little bit of extra warmth. So just throwing one of those on is a good thing on there. And a lot of them these days have mesh backs too, so if you do sweat, it's going to be going right through that mesh and not trapping that right up against your body too. So those are fairly nice layers to have in the mid-range layer. Depending on how I'm layering too, we talked about long sleeve. It's like really cold out. Like I've gone crazy sometimes and gone like in super snow and like 0 degrees just to say I could do it. Really, it's not that enjoyable unless you're totally dressed for the weather. Then it is really fun because you can stay totally warm when you're out. So I'll put tons of layers on, have a really thick mid layer on as I'm going out there. So this has all that big old fun fibers in there. Going to be really warm as I'm going out too. So this is a good mid layer to have when you're going out. In terms of glove, I like gloves like this right here too, like Randy was talking about, having that layer underneath. Some gloves I've actually bought, like these right here, they actually have that layer built into them, which is really nice. So having that small layer on the inside that Velcro's in there is really great. I can wear these by themselves or wear this right here by itself if it's not as cold out, but then be able to just combine the two layers and wear it as I'm out there too. So that's a great mid-weight layer to have in terms of the gloves. So I really agree with what he was saying on terms of those. That does it for mid layers for me, I think.
Yeah, the vest is a really cool thing. I think vests, they really offer a lot of different temperature ranges from, you know, kind of warmer weather, like 50 degrees, you can throw those on. The cool thing about a vest and a lot of cycling specific type things is that they're going to be kind of more of almost a shell material on the front and be mesh in the back. Because as you're riding, that wind that's coming towards you, that kind of wind chill effect that you're producing, you still want to get all that heat off of you to stay cool and not sweat too much so that you can vent through the back. A really cool feature and common for a lot of cooler weather and cold weather gear.
I got one more I just thought I forgot about. So depending on what you're doing when you're going out, sometimes you might think about you're definitely going to get hot. But you might want a long sleeve when you first start out, but you're probably going to be having a shell on the outside or something like that, and you're like, you know what, I probably am not going to want a long sleeve 10 minutes into the ride, but just in case I'm going to take it and wear it. So sleeves offer some really cool protections. You can actually just put these on, and they go right up your arm and go right in place there, and just like it's wearing a long sleeve, but without having to actually wear a long sleeve, and you can just peel these right off as you're riding. Sometimes you can even do it while you're wearing your coat. Just reach in and pull it out of your coat, and then you have short sleeve shirt underneath your jacket or whatever else too, so you're able to peel that layer off real quick. So I do like sleeves to be able to change the layers up really quick as you ride.
And the exact same thing, but for your legs, are knee warmers. So this is one of my all-time favorite pieces of equipment. I wear these things. I went on a ride a couple weeks ago. It's about 50 degrees, and I was pretty warm, but I got rickety knees. And these things keep my knees really warm, and it kind of helps after the ride with having kind of some knee pain. So these are really cool. Same thing. You just pull them on. They fit up under your shorts a little bit, and they cover, kind of the middle portion of your leg. And it's one of my all-time favorite pieces because you can take these, you can roll them up. They fit into a jersey pocket or into a pouch on your bike really easy. You can take them on and off super easy. And if you're going out on a ride, especially when it might start off in the morning where it's kind of cool, you want to stay warm, you can put on some sleeves on your arms and some knee warmers, head out in your normal cycling gear. As the day warms up, peel that stuff off, tuck it into a pocket, and you don't have to have long pants on or long sleeves on for the rest of your ride. I would have forgot that. Let's see, we're still on mid-layer. Just like Jordan was saying with kind of those insulating fibers, one of my favorite things I have is this fleece jacket. This is just kind of standard issue, a little bit more snug fitting, mostly because I'm a little bit bigger than when I first bought it. But it fits great, and it's got kind of some fluffy fibers, even though it's super lightweight. So throwing this on over top of my base layer and before I put on a shell really can keep me warm down to really cool temperatures. Another thing is a vest. This is just a down puffy vest. Keeping my core warm really helps keep the rest of my body warm as well. So this is something that fits nicely underneath of a shell. It compresses down really small, so you could tuck this thing into a pocket or into a pouch on your bike or your camelback, and really take something that's really versatile and use it for all types of riding. Let's see, I had one more. We're talking about kind of mid layers. I think that's it. So last we'll get into kind of our outer layer or the shell layer. So Jordan, why don't you tell us about some of your favorite shells or outer layers?
All right, so in terms of for my lower half, again, starting there, depending on the temperature, a lot of times just wear one pair of pants or tights just right underneath of there, pretty tight, keeping everything just warm right there. Depending on what I'm doing though, I might get into a little bit heavier fleecy or even got some wind protection. So these are a nice pair right here too that's got some of that built in, so it just has a little more protection, a little thicker. So having a pair of pants that just are not necessarily cycling specific, but they could be, and so they just really help keep you warm and insulate as you're going out too. Then moving to the upper layer for my outerwear, my go-to when it's in the 40s, maybe into the high 30s, is definitely, like I was saying earlier, is the vest. But as I'm going out and I'm talking about getting colder and temperatures are dropping, and as that's happening during the day, it gets less light out. So sometimes I used to wear a lot more black and stuff like that too, but I've really been thinking lately about reflective and getting something that's going to be seen as it gets darker outside. So something a little bit brighter for that layer can really help and be good. Another great layer, depending on what I'm going to be having, if I want something a little bit warmer or if there's a chance of rain or anything, is just a jacket like this. It's got some nice vents built in, has lots of pockets and things and access for stuff, but it's a little bit heavier duty and it's really going to protect you from the rain or from the wind. So this is a little bit heavier jacket that can go out there. But if you think about it, you could really wear any rain jacket or anything, just tuck the hood on the inside or inside that too. So it's really just thinking about your different layers. But if it's going to be really cold out, I really like a windstopper jacket. So this right here is one of the Gore windstopper ones. It's got pockets on the inside here. It's got pit zips for when you get really warm when you're out there too. And it's got just a lot of fun stuff. All those white lines on there are reflective too, so those are great for being seen when you're out. This is my go-to layer for all kinds of weather. Like, I've layered underneath of this right here with a lot of different layers, and like I talked about earlier, right out in 0 degrees or anything. But sometimes if you're going out and I'm just riding around town or whatever else, I don't need all this fancy gear. I can literally just throw on my down jacket or a lightweight one and have this here as a warm layer over top. or even underneath of a shell as I'm going out. So really just wearing anything that's going to keep you warm. If you're not going for an extended amount of time, you're going to be sweating like crazy. Like a down jacket is great for that. I think I'll turn it over to Randy and we can cover the helmets and feet and stuff in a second.
Yeah, that's good. That's like most of my stuff I'm looking down here. I've got a lot of feet things. So I'll start talking. I'll talk a little bit about kind of my torso and legs. Then we'll get into feet and hands and heads a little deeper. So kind of depending on what style of riding I'm doing, if I'm going out for a road ride, my all-time favorite piece for cold weather, probably 40 degrees or colder, are a pair of bibs that I have, long bibs, that these actually don't have a chamois built in. So most cycling pants, shorts, bibs, pants that you buy, a lot of them will have a built-in chamois. And I found these without the chamois built in, which I really like because I can layer up underneath. So I'll wear maybe a pair of liners underneath, maybe a lighter weight bib underneath, and then this is what I wear on the outside. And these are really great. They're not terribly thick, but they do a great job of keeping me warm. And I've worn these down into rides where it's probably in the mid to high 20s. That works for me. Now, for mountain biking or just more casual riding, one of my favorite things I have are a pair of just like technical pants. These aren't cycling specific. They're just kind of a standard technical synthetic fabric with some stretch pants. And these are a little bit slimmer fitting, so they're nice for cycling so they don't get caught in your chain. But these are great because I can wear these on a day when it's 50 degrees. I rode a couple weeks ago, and it was kind of cool to start. And I wore these, and I can wear these same ones with some long johns underneath on a really cold day. I can wear my liners with chamois in and really layer up my lower torso. Jordan has something over there he wants to show.
I was going to say, if you're wearing pants like that, a lot of times I'll wear those too and I'm just going out. But if you want to keep your pants from getting caught in your chain, wearing a little pants protector around your ankle will do the trick. So $5 and they're totally worth it just to wear any pair of pants you want riding.
Let's see, torso. I've got only a couple pieces here. I think Jordan mentioned just a regular rain jacket. So this is just a standard outdoor rain jacket. Years ago, I was just looking around trying to grab something because it wasn't terribly cold. It was really windy, and I was going out for a ride, and I didn't have anything that was cycling specific. So I just grabbed a rain jacket, and what Jordan was mentioning, you can just kind of roll up the hood and tuck it in, so it's not flapping in the wind. And this can work perfectly for an outer layer for cycling. You can wear all your cycling specific clothes underneath, or insulating layers. This one has pit zips, so you can open the zips up to let some heat out and kind of help adjust your temperature. And so, you don't have to buy something specific. I do also have, which is one of my favorite things here, a cycling specific rain jacket. Similar to, I think, what Jordan has over there. So this is cycling specific. It has reflective material on it. It's got a pocket in the back. And one of my favorite things about this is it actually has this stuff sack. And you can see how small this is. The jacket stuffs into that, and it's literally about the size of my fist. So it can fit into a jersey pocket. So if you're heading out and you're not sure about the weather, something like this is really handy because you can take it with you, and you've got a backup plan. Similarly, if you head out on your ride, it compresses down. If it's going to warm up or it's going to get drier, you can start off wearing the jacket, and you can take it off, and then it fits nicely into a pouch or a jersey pocket. So I love this. Actually found it at a thrift store, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I've got one very similar to that fits in a pocket. And the thing I like about that is, when you're talking about you start out, a lot of people say, oh, the tip is you got to start out so that you're a little cold and you warm up as you're riding. I like to go ahead and put this extra layer on, and then that 10 minutes in, I can peel it off, stuck it in my pocket, and then it's great insurance for if I do have a mechanic or anything, and I gotta sit around and wait for somebody to come pick me up or fix my bike. I have another layer that I can throw on. I'm not totally freezing the whole time I'm trying to fix my flat tire or anything.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Having a rain shell or some sort of hard shell as an outer layer, even if you're not going to wear it as a backup plan, it's such a useful piece of equipment. If you break down, if you want to take a break, you can grab that shell, put it on immediately, and all that heat that you've built up while you've been out riding is going to be trapped, so you're not going to get cold. Or if you've already built up a lot of heat, you're kind of sweating, you kind of let yourself start to cool off a little bit, and then throw on that shell while you're stopped, just to kind of maintain that temperature. And then when you're ready to ride again, pop the shell off, put it in your pocket, and be on your way. So it's, you know, having one that's compressible, pretty small, really lightweight. You can get really lightweight shells, and they're not terribly expensive. But it's just that hard shell, kind of rain jacket material that really makes a big difference for blocking the wind and trapping that heat inside. These two jackets I just showed you, the black and this green one here, these are both actual rain jackets, so these are waterproof. This one here is just a wind shell, but this one is one of my favorites because it's got some cool features. This is a cycling specific one. It's got a pocket in the back, like a lot of cycling gear does. But my favorite feature about this is it's convertible. So this is something else that you'll find a lot of gear, is the sleeves actually pull off. So you can be riding along, start to warm up, and just want to ride in your vest, and you just pop the sleeves off. And in this one in particular, the sleeves are held on with little magnets. I know there's some out there that have zippers or snaps or other things, but this, you know, makes investing in a piece of equipment way more versatile as opposed to buying a jacket and a vest. You can buy something like this and get kind of two pieces of equipment out of one. Let's see. So let's kind of move into our. Let's start with feet. And I'll talk a little bit about feet, and I'll kick over to Jordan. My feet get cold. My hands, I've mentioned this before, my hands and my feet get cold. And sometimes I will layer up my hands and my feet more than the rest of my body because they get cold. One of the easiest things you can do to extend your riding into colder weather is to swap your traditional cycling shoes for a pair of just regular shoes and flat pedals. So the newer style mountain bike flat pedals that there's a ton out there. These are not the biggest that I have, but these are of decent size. They've got the metal pins, so they pretty much will stick to any shoe. Those of you that are mountain bikers out there, you know, it seems like more often than not people are riding on flat pedals now, and there's mountain bike specific shoes, but you can really wear anything. So this is a pair of waterproof hiking boots that I have, and they really grip well. I wanted to test this a few weeks ago to see how well they would work, because my flat pedal mountain bike shoes just aren't very warm, and these I can put some warm thick socks underneath, and they're waterproof. And they were amazing. They fit great. They were comfortable. They grip my pedals just fine. I wasn't out, you know, shredding or anything, but I was out for a fun casual ride, and they worked out perfectly. This is really good, especially if you're a commuter and you want to wear, you know, more casual or warm shoes. So a flat pedal and pretty much any shoe, even big thick winter boots. If you do want to stick with your cycling specific shoes, just like the knee warmers and the arm warmers that we showed you earlier, there are toe warmers that you can put on. So this is a simple little toe cover that just slides on the end of your cycling shoe. They make these in all sorts of materials. These are actually a pretty thin neoprene, but most cycling shoes have a lot of vents, and this just basically blocks those vents so the wind doesn't get through. And they're not very expensive. These are simple ones that I have that I use pretty regularly. And then you can go kind of a little bit more intense and get kind of a complete shoe cover. These particular are waterproof and windproof. So then you can see they cover your entire shoe and come up over your ankle. So, you know, one of the things that can help keep you warm in pretty much any temperature is covering up any gaps. So the gap that you have between your pants and your socks, or, you know, having that gap covered up. This is nice that these come up a little bit higher on your foot. And they make the full shoe covers in all sorts of materials as well. There's ones that are insulated. There's ones that come up even higher. If you're like super hardcore wanting to ride to the North Pole, there's probably a shoe cover out there that will keep your feet warm.
Well, and they even make cycling specific boots and cold weather gear from companies that are built for that, for people that like to go ride fat bikes in the snow and in the Arctic and all those kind of places. So they make really heavy duty winter boots too that are made for cycling with the clips or for flats or anything as well.
So Jordan, do you want to talk about hands or heads?
Sure. A few other things about the shoes and whatever else. Sometimes before I go taking my shoes made for the summertime, and I'm going to be throwing my covers on or anything like that too, I'll go ahead and sometimes prep my shoes for the wintertime. So these vents right there, if I'm going to throw this right here over top of there, it's not really going to cover that vent. It's just sucking that cold air in. So I might take some electrical tape and tape over that vent, so it's going to block that air, maybe even on the top side too a little bit, and protect those areas. I've seen people take out their sole on the inside, put some tin foil down first, and put it back in there to provide a little bit more heat. You can take bread bags or even just like your bag from the store, put their sock on, put their shoe inside of that right there, and then put it inside there too. Put their foot inside there and put it inside there, so with one extra layer, or even after they put their shoe on, then put that around their shoe, and then put this right here on over top of that. So just add another layer on the outside can provide a little bit more heat or trap some stuff in there too. So it's worth messing around with and trying it out as you're going out there. But as Randy said, sometimes too, I just like wearing a pair of boots or something that I know is going to keep me warm. I don't have to mess around with any of this right here because I'm just riding around having fun. I'm just glad to be out there. So not have to worry about those too much. Then we talked a little bit about the heads. And as you're getting warmer out there and what to wear, going from just like a regular cycling cap to stepping up to covering your ears. And it gets really cold, then putting a full skull cap on. Or if it's super cold, then you can cover your ears and your head and everything. This is like insulated, got the wind stopper in there. But as you're thinking about that right there, you gotta think, is my helmet big enough to fit all these layers? So hopefully you've got one that's got an adjuster in back, and you should be able to just give it out a few twists, and then it should be just big enough to fit all this on top. So you can try it out, and then you got your hat on, and it fits right over top of my hat. So it's pretty nice when you can try it out. But if you look at this hat or helmet right here, it's got a whole lot of holes in the front right there. So I'm gonna get a lot of wind in there. So I've seen some people, it looks a little silly, but they'll put little shower caps over top of it, and it protects from getting a bunch of wind in there. Or they do make aero helmets that are meant for like riding in time trial and stuff like that, and they block a lot of holes and stuff so you don't want to get that wind going in. Or even some commuter type helmets, stuff like that, have a lot less holes in them as compared to this one right here. So having a helmet that has those, or even taping some of those up, it works pretty good. Just putting a little bit of electrical tape on there and makes you a lot warmer. Talking about putting tape on things, reflective strips are great for throwing some on the side of your helmet or anything too, because you're going out and you're going to be out at night, so chances are you might not be seen as much. So throwing some reflective tape on your gear, even on your bike, and in addition to that, wearing lights when you're going out. Talking about this area here in your head, if it's, a lot of times I always like to wear glasses when I'm going out, so normal sunglasses during the day, but in the early morning or later at night, sometimes wearing a clear pair of glasses can be really good to keep your eyes warm so you don't quite freeze as you're going out there. But if you're going along, just going along, you can really freeze when you're going out, and it protects you from anything flying at you too. They do make different color lenses too, even like an amber or something like that for early morning or late evening riding as well. If it's super, super cold out, I'll sometimes wear neck gaiter too. Those are, Randy talked about, there's some gaps sometimes. So this right here can cover that gap. So it's really great for keeping your neck warm as you're going out. Then on the upper part too, sometimes I've done it once or twice when it's super cold out, I'm going out, got my ski goggles, I'll throw those on so it keeps this whole area warm, but I still got this gap right here. So they do make some masks that are going out, and these are great too because it's got a nose hole there and it's vented in the front too, so you can breathe through it. So it's pretty great for keeping this whole area warm.
And you look at ninja.
Oh yeah. And you can pretty much cover everything and still get your hat on. So you're totally warm when you're going out. Totally crazy, but it's perfect. There's all kinds of layers for everything heading out there. That covers that area. We're ready to use the hands.
I think hands. My hands are cold, so I'm going to put some gloves on.
All right. So if it's just like 50s, 40s, a real lightweight pair of gloves can work great when you're heading out, or even a fleece pair of gloves or some liner gloves by themselves. But you might be stepping it up and wanting a different pair. So if it's really cold out, these are my go-to pair of gloves because they've got this really cool feature. Right here, it's got a pocket built into them that you actually put a hand warmer in, and it slides in there so it's lined, so it heats up the glove and keeps your hand warm as you're riding. So they're really great for cold weather riding when you're out. Another pair that I've barely ridden in, but I'm really psyched to try them out in the colder weather, is these lobster claw gloves. They're not quite full lobster claw because if you look at them, this is actually a cover that slides into the part right here. So this actually just hides in there. But then as you're riding along and it starts getting colder and colder out, and there's some wind hitting you there, but that's where you get a lot of cold from, you can pull this out and put it over top of your hands, and it's going to protect you from that wind going through there. And the nice thing is it kind of puts those two fingers together and these two fingers together so they get a little more warmth together. So it's almost like you're getting some mittens, but a little bit of that going on there. So
yeah, so I've mentioned this probably the 9th, maybe 10th time I mentioned that my hands get cold. And sometimes, like I said, I will layer up just my hands because it's just terrible. And the wind that you produce when you ride, especially road riding, it's more often than not, your hands aren't moving around a lot. You're not moving your upper body a ton. My hands just get really cold. So I mentioned before the liner gloves that are ideal, and these can fit under a variety of gloves. These are a windproof, waterproof glove that's cycling specific that I really like. One of my favorite features of these is your nose starts to get a little runny. It's got a little fleece thing on the thumb to wipe your nose, which I need right now on both. There we go. But those are cycling specific. My two favorite, maybe of all my equipment that I have here, my two favorite winter riding pieces of equipment that I have are not cycling specific. The first pair are my kind of mountaineering style mittens. So these bad boys here, these are really similar to the rainproof water shell rain jackets there. This is a windproof, waterproof layer. They look a little bulky, look a little ridiculous. They have a lot of really cool features. And for road riding with drop handlebars, these work just fine. And these will keep your hands warm. These are a little bit lighter weight version that I can wear my liner gloves underneath, but I've wore these on some rides where it's down in the 20s and my hands stay toasty warm. And they have the added benefit that they're waterproof as well. So, you know, I'll wear a lighter weight glove underneath where I can pop it off, do what I need to do if I take a stop, and then slide these things back on. And they do an amazing job. But these don't work really well for flat bars, being able to cover your brake levers and shift. And another piece of equipment, these are a little bit more expensive, but something that a lot of people have seen probably have are just insulated winter work gloves. This is something that I picked up from, I think, skiers, or where I saw it for the first time. You know, just blowing through gloves through the winter, and really expensive gloves are kind of a bummer if you lose one or you blow out one of the fingers or the palm. You can pick these up just about anywhere. Insulated winter work gloves. You can work your brakes. They keep your hands warm. I absolutely love these, and these are one of my, like I said, of all this equipment up here, this is one of my all-time favorites, and it's probably the cheapest thing on this table. So, you know, figuring out a system that works for you, something like this, is kind of the key to riding further into the winter and in the colder months. There are a lot of really amazing videos out there that really break down, you know, road cycling specific into temperature ranges of what type of equipment works best for you. There's not as many out there for mountain biking. There's a handful for commuting, but the bottom line is figuring out a system that works for you, kind of looking through the equipment that you already have. You don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money, and figuring out what types of things that you might be able to use and just try it out. The key about riding in cold weather, at any level, any temperature, any type of riding, is maintaining a temperature where you're not getting too hot. And really, you know, building up some heat and riding when it's really cold is good, and keeping your blood pumping. And once you kind of get into the groove, you know, riding a little bit hotter is not a bad thing. But like Jordan said earlier, if you break down, if you have to stop, if you have a mechanical or a flat tire, and you're really hot and now you stop, you're going to get cold really fast. So it can be a little bit of a dangerous thing to deal with. That's where dressing in layers really helps. So being able to take things off, put things on, And that just takes practice and figuring out what works best for you. I, over the years, have figured out what systems work for me. Kind of have my own little system. Jordan's are a little bit different. We have some things that we share, like the arm and the leg warmers. There's all sorts of things that you can do. It's just trying out different equipment you have, figuring out what you have that already works, and finding a system that just you're able to get out and can still enjoy your ride.
Yeah, if you're getting ready to head out and you're trying to figure out what to use, and you're like, I'm going to take this really long ride, maybe take a shorter ride around your block or something like that on a couple miles so you're close to home, so you don't take all this equipment with you the first time you're going out, so that you can figure out what works and dial it in before you head out on a long ride in the wintertime, or even commuting to work or anything like that if you're still heading there.
And one of the biggest mistakes that I still make, and it's just I haven't learned my lesson, is that in the morning, if you're going for a ride, or midday, or whenever, you're getting geared up, you're kind of moving around, gathering your stuff, because in the winter, it kind of takes a lot more time to just get ready to go. And you're kind of getting a little more, you're building up a little bit of heat maybe. You want to start off your ride a little bit colder. So you might want to go out and head out on your ride, and this is mountain biking, road biking, or even commuting, feeling like I might be a little bit too cold, because you're going to start building up some heat. And if you start off your ride hot, you're only going to get hotter. So if you start off a little bit cold, maybe a little bit lighter, take an extra layer just in case, you're probably going to be able to find that happy spot where you're able to stay, not get too hot, but not get cold as well. So that's kind of a pro tip. Start your ride off cold. I still don't do it. I still make that mistake.
And if you're heading out, we'll talk about, these insulated bottles are great for the summertime, keeping my water nice and ice cold. They can do the opposite for you. You can pour a little bit of hot water in there, some tea, or even some warm sports drink, and they'll warm you up as you're riding.
Well, folks, that is all that we have for you today in regards to riding in the winter. Like I said, there's tons of really great resources out there, and we might share a few of the resources that we've found and that we've checked out over the years in the comments. Aside from that, like I said, Mamba's open. Get out here and ride, because this is a rare day for this time of year.